Canada's trade numbers for April are in, and they are raising some serious concern. Exports to the U.S. plunged as new tariffs take a toll. Our next guest says that these numbers serve as a reality check. Carl Shimada is a chief market strategist at CorePlay, and he joins us now from Toronto. So, Carl, this trade deficit was one of the largest on record. Were you surprised when you saw the $7.1 billion figure?
Yes, I was. This was, the largest outside of the pandemic and the global financial crisis before it. A very, very big hit to Canadian exports. But what is interesting here, I think, is that what we're really seeing play out is what economists call bullwhip effects, right? A mild change in demand and supply on one end winds up being a very, very big impact on the other end of the supply chain. And so, this is very much like what you saw during the pandemic when, everyone decided that they needed to buy toilet paper all at the same time. And then they had, and I'm sure some people who did this as well, but you then had your whole house full of toilet paper and you didn't need any for the next year, right? And so what's happened here is in the first couple of months of this year, as Donald Trump sort of increased the rhetoric, businesses and consumers on both sides of the border increased the amount that they were buying. And so if we look at this on a net basis, the first 4 months of this year, exports to the U.S. and to the world are actually up relative to the same 4 months last year. It's just that we have a lot of volatility from month to month.
Okay, so, does that mean that this could be potentially a blip or a one-time thing, but what does it say about the broader health of our economy?
I would say that it is likely to be a blip in the severity of it, but nonetheless, we are looking at a much more hostile global trade environment going forward. Firstly, it's going to cost us more to ship goods into the United States. We know that. That means that American consumers and businesses are going to buy less Canadian products. We know that the U.S. economy is very likely to slow because of the scale of the tax that has been imposed on the economy. That means, again, that we're going to have weaker exports. And all of that's going to translate back into a weaker growth trajectory here in Canada. And unfortunately, could very likely put people in goods producing sectors out of work.
What about retaliatory tariffs? They were put in place to try and send a message to the U.S., but to what end are they playing a role in this?
Yeah, I think they did contribute a bit to, imports fell by 3.5% in the month. And so I think they did contribute to that in the sense that, Canadians looking at more expensive goods coming in from abroad may have chosen to avoid, spending. But I think there were also two other big effects, and those were that, we had this Buy Canada trade in place. In other words, Canadian consumers boycotting American goods. That has shifted the import mix that existed, prior to Trump taking office. And at the same time, we just have this, we have higher costs, and more uncertainty weighing on Canadian households. So Canadian households are very likely, behaving a little bit more cautiously and buying a little bit less than they might have done previously. And so, between these two things, we have a drop in imports relative to prior months.
Canadians will be watching this, and the big question, I think, over the past few months has been, are we dealing with this trade war properly? Is it going to have the desired effect? And I'm wondering, what does the trade deficit tell us about how Canada is dealing with this trade war?
I think we're dealing with it as well as we can. The reality here is that this is something that was, imposed upon Canada for very illogical reasons, quite frankly. And, I think we don't have a lot of choice but to suffer because, at the end of the day, Canada, geographically has to be dependent on the U.S. as an export market. Canada is on average poorer than the U.S. And so, there's a natural imbalance there. There's a natural need to be exporting to the U.S. And so, that's made Canada extremely vulnerable. Now, I do think, to the prior comment there that, this is a reality check, that this is an opportunity for Canada to look down at the sort of grassroots of the Canadian economy to do what is needed to increase productivity, to do what is needed to increase investment and innovation, and take this as an opportunity to grow the Canadian economy in the long run.
Carl Shimada is a chief market strategist at CorePlay. Carl, thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me.